So this will be my third in a series of talks about the concept of Sabbath. Last week we looked at what I called big Sabbaths. Extended periods of time away from work, away from our tendency toward incessant busyness. Big Sabbaths are meant for couples, they're meant for families, they're meant for groups. It takes the support of a community to actually pull off a big Sabbath in a world where the entire culture wants us to be busy 24/7. And big, long Sabbaths are also meant for communal activities. They're meant to do things together. I spoke to somebody this week, and they left church last week. They took their dogs for a walk in the park, and they were just conscious of how nice it was to be doing nothing. And they were conscious of how beautiful it was to watch families and children and other dogs. What were they doing? They were playing. It was Sunday afternoon, it was beautiful, and it was time to play, and to relax, and to get away. And I appreciated that this person shared that. They were conscious of how special this time was, and they may have enjoyed it just a little more because they were conscious of it. This week, I want to explore what I call little Sabbaths. Little Sabbaths are those shorter breaks, often taken alone. They can be vacations from work, while you're still at work. They can be 20-minute meditations as you may start your day or end your day. A little Sabbath might be your favorite yoga class. Little Sabbaths are for those people who are literally slaves to the clock. Working mothers, people with 2 jobs, full-time students with jobs, and a whole bunch of other people that don't fall into any of those categories. Little Sabbaths are a way of reclaiming some time for yourself. They can let you feel a little bit more in control of your life if you do it, if you practice them, if you keep them, if you find them. Little Sabbaths are also for all of us who can't or who won't make time for a big Sabbath during our week. Now, I've already mentioned studies that show that while most members of our society are working fewer hours than they were 15 years ago, and whenever I read that, or whenever I hear that, or whenever I say that, there's always a reaction like, that can't be possible. Because everyone feels like we're working more. That's part of what I want us to look at today. Why is it that we feel that way? What causes that to happen? Is there anything we can do about it? I think there may be. As for why it's so, consider first of all how time has become so much more fragmented in our lives. The 9 to 5, Monday to Friday work week, that's totally disappeared for many people. You heard Karen speak this morning. She's going to a change of work. She has an option. She'll be working 10 hours a day for 8 days straight with 6 days off, or some other package that they're offering her. We have people who come to work because suddenly they're not working on Sunday morning. We have people who come to church who are working split shifts. Sometimes they're working all night, sometimes they're working all day, and they tell me they don't know which ends up. Science has shown that that kind of a schedule is very hard, because we're kind of built, okay? We're kind of built for 24 hours, for day, for night, for rest, for morning. Ask doctors who have to work outrageously long shifts. Ask them when the mistakes creep up. So it's a different world. And as I said last week, we're not going to try to go back into the past. We're not going to lament the past. We're not going to hope that someday somebody changes the laws and we all have the same days off from everything. We're trying to identify what our reality is and see if there's anything we can do about it. Many of us work weekends. Many of us work nights. So families often experience a very disoriented reality, because each member of that family may be working a totally different schedule, and they're hardly ever at home at the same time. This creates in us the sense that work is ongoing, all the time, never ceasing. If we're not working, somebody around us is going to work. It fragments our reality. Everything happens in these little bits and pieces of work. Consider this. I think this is really the key that I want you to take away today. Consider how technology has impacted our awareness and our sense that we're constantly busy. So consider this. We now spend at least 8.5 hours a day in front of some kind of a screen. over a third of our day in front of some kind of computer screen, TV screen, iPad screen, phone screen. Consider this, the average teenager, we don't have many teenagers in our midst today, sends or receives 75 text messages a day. Now, those of us who haven't gotten turned on to text and actually kind of resent its intrusion into our lives can't conceive of that. 75 messages a day on an average. The amount of time that adults spend online doubled between 2005 and 2009, and I couldn't find comparable statistics for 2009 to 2012. But we in America started spending twice as much time online between 2005 and 2009. I happen to know exactly what it's like to be watching TV and to have an iPad on my lap. I could be watching 2 sports events. The reason I really wanted the iPad, so when I heard something on TV I wanted to learn more about, I can look it up on the iPad instead of going to the library. I do that all the time. Talk about splitting my focus and being fragmented. I'm looking at 2 screens, trying to live in 2 worlds at once. And that is what so many of us do in so many different ways all day long. We used to call these little wonders. I almost brought them all into the pulpit this morning, but I was afraid I'd drop one on Nikki's head, so I didn't. We used to call all these little wonders, our computers, our cell phones, our availability to do email, we used to call them time savers. Time savers? Oh sure, computers are faster than typewriters, and Wikipedia is faster than a trip to the library, even if it's only 2 blocks away. But our time savers can very, very quickly become time stealers if we let them. As one commentator put it, the information age came without an instruction manual. Now, if the information age had come with an instruction manual, I'm pretty sure that the first page should have said, "Be careful, this can take over your life." How many times have I heard somebody tell me that they sat down at their computer to check out their mail, and suddenly it's 4 hours later? I'm not talking 20 minutes later, I'm not talking a half hour later, I'm talking 4 hours later. Many of you have experienced that because you've shared it. And there's an incredible amount of social science and medical science investigation going on trying to figure out what happens to us during those hours. Our attention moves from email to Facebook, and then finally we get to YouTube, and there's no end to the videos we can watch. Especially cute little animals. We all know how easy it is to get lost in the videos. But listen to this. Some people are reporting a new phenomenon. And this is where it gets a little scary. After spending those 4 hours on the computer, they can't remember what they did. This is being documented. This is being studied. It showed up in online study after study that I looked into when I was talking about Sabbath and technology. They don't remember what they did. It's not unlike an alcoholic blackout. And it's not unlike an addiction. If you're doing something for 4 hours and you walk away and you're not quite sure what you spent your time doing, you were not conscious and somebody else was in control. It's as if we are so happy to be distracted that we forget to bring our consciousness along with us. Well, and then there's all the time devoted to acquiring and maintaining our machines. Time savers? We're happy to be consumers. We are proud of what we consume. I certainly am. In fact, we have to be honest about how much time it can take, though. Because we don't just buy these devices and then go off and enjoy them. We often have to shop for months, weighing the options, and sometimes waiting for the next version to come out. And then the devices are so complicated, and each new one is more complicated. The devices are so feature-rich that we actually have to read some of the manuals. And we spend hours, hours, talking to help desks when something goes wrong, or when we haven't read the manuals. It takes a lot of time to be a consumer of complicated technologies. Where does this leave us? I came across a phrase, a writer coined this phrase. I think it speaks to this condition very well, and it's stuck in my mind, and I try to watch when it starts to finding my reality. We live in a state of continuous partial attention. Continuous partial attention. Does that ring true for some of you? One of the reasons we feel like we are working, in other words, and one of the reasons that even the things we think we do for fun feel like work, is that we spend so much of our day in this state of continuous partial attention. We're scattered. We are not all there. We may rarely be fully engaged in our work. And I suspect that it is even more true that we are rarely fully engaged in our play and in our rest. We need to cultivate. We need, or perhaps the right word is reawaken, an appreciation for what Judith Shulevitz calls a different order of time. And once again, she's the woman who wrote the book, A Sabbath World, and her book has deeply influenced my attempt to regain some Sabbath in my life with Angela, in our life, and I hope to bring some of this to you so that you might help yourselves do the same. Judith Shulevitz, excellent book, Jewish woman, A Sabbath World, it's called.